Welcome to HFY Galactic Stories, original science fiction tales, where humans face impossible odds, and the galaxy pays the price for its ignorance. Listen carefully. This is where legends are born. The arrogance of ages. The Crithian Dominion was in charge of the spiral arm of the galaxy for a very long time. 15,000 years. They controlled a lot of star systems. No other species was able to fight back against the Crithian Dominion for more than a few days. The Crithian Dominion was really good at war because they came from a line of warriors. They knew how to win battles and take over new planets. The Crithian Dominion had the technology and they always knew what to do. They thought they were better than everyone and they always would be. The Crithian Dominion was the best at what they did. Supreme Commander Vexthar was standing in the command chamber of the Eternal Dominance, which is his flagship. He was looking at the display in front of him. The star chart was showing a group of human settlements. These human settlements were spread across 4 systems. The humans are very primitive and isolated. They are also very vulnerable. The humans only learned how to travel than light within the last generation. This is a new thing for the humans. They are like children who are playing with things they do not really understand. Now the humans have gotten the attention of the Eternal Dominance and Supreme Commander Vexthar, who's the leader of the galaxy's greatest power, the Supreme Commander Vexthar and the Eternal Dominance. Vexthar was really tall for a Crithian. He stood 3 meters high. The skin of Vexthar was like crystal. It was a deep purple color. This color got darker as Vexthar got older, gained more honor. Vexthar had 4 arms. They came out of his strong body. Each arm of Vexthar could hold the plasma blades that showed his high rank. The eyes of Vexthar were special too. Vexthar had 3 eyes. They were arranged in a triangle on his face. The eyes of Vexthar could see different things at the same time. Vexthar had been in charge of groups of spaceships for over 200 years. In all that time Vexthar had always won completely. The fleets of Vexthar had never lost a battle. War Mistress Kalsina, who was second in command, walked towards him from the side of the room. She moved in a precise and controlled way, which is what you would expect from a Crithian who was born into a noble family. War Mistress Kalsina held a data tablet in one of her hands and her other 3 hands were clasped together behind her back. This was the way to show respect. War Mistress Kalsina did this well. The Supreme Commander got the results of the study of the territories. Kalsina gave him the tablet. Vexthar did not take it from her. He liked to hear the reports loud. This was something he did on purpose to make sure his people knew where they stood with him. The Supreme Commander wanted to make it clear who was in charge, so he had his people tell him things directly. The man told him to speak. He said it like he was in charge. The man gave a command. He had to speak now. The humans live in 4 systems and they have around 8 billion people. Most of the humans live on a planet called Nova Terra, where 2 billion humans stay. The rest of the humans are on places where they get things from the ground or on farms or on stations up in space. Kalsina stopped talking for a moment. You could see something like a smile in her third eye. The humans have a military with 1,500 ships and most of these ships were not made for fighting, they were just normal ships that they changed a little bit to carry some weapons. Vexthar made a sound deep in his throat. It was like a growl and a laugh all at the time. There were 1,500 vessels. The Dominion had sent 75,000 ships for this fight. That was not even a big deal for them. The humans were in trouble. They had 1 ship for every 50 of the Dominion ships and the Dominion had better technology. The difference was huge. The Dominion technology was ahead of the human technology. What are the defensive capabilities of the Vexthar asked? No, Vexthar is the one asking. So Vexthar wants to know about the capabilities. Vexthar asked about the capabilities. These people are not very strong. They have shields to protect them from energy and simple guns that shoot things. They do not have plasma weapons or special devices that can disrupt the rules of nature. Their fastest spaceships are slow. Can only go about 70% of the speed of light. When we looked at them closely, we think they do not know about fighting in dimensions or how to change time. Vexthar turned back to the display and looked at the human worlds with his 3 eyes. This was not going to be a fight to take over. The Crithian expansion would completely destroy the humans. This would be a lesson to all the species in the area that might think about fighting back against the Crithians. The humans would be an example. Their worlds would be destroyed, left as nothing but ash and rubble. The humans and their worlds would be completely. This would show what happens when you resist the Crithian expansion. We are going to start with the mining colony that's on the outside. Vexthar decided. This place is called Horizon's Edge. We will completely destroy Horizon's Edge. We will not leave anyone alive. When the people on their worlds hear about what happened to Horizon's Edge, they will be very scared. This fear will help us a lot. It will do a part of the job for us. Kalsina bowed low, all four of her arms crossing over her chest. It will be done, Supreme Commander. Should we give them the chance to surrender like we always do? Vexthar thought about this for a moment. The Crithian Honor Code said they had to offer terms to a species before they started fighting. These codes were made a long time ago, thousands of years ago, when the Dominion was fighting against people who were just as strong as they were. The humans are not like that. They are not even close to being as good as the Dominion. In fact, they are hardly worth thinking about. The humans just do not seem to be on the level as the Dominion. No, he said flatly. Insects do not deserve to be treated with respect or kindness, they just do not deserve the courtesy of negotiation, the insects do not. The Crithian fleet was like a group of shiny silver ships when it moved through hyperspace. The Crithian fleet had hulls that were really shiny because they were made with metals. These special metals made the Crithian fleet almost impossible to hurt with guns. The Crithian fleet came out of hyperspace at the edge of the Horizon's Edge system. The Crithian fleet was in formation. This showed that the Crithian fleet was very good at working. The Crithian fleet had been practicing for a long time, thousands and thousands of years. The mining colony was floating in space around a gas planet. It was made up of lots of living spaces and factories that took out things from the planet's air. The mining colony was home to 300,000 people, and most of them were workers and their families. There was a station with guns to protect the mining colony, and it was located close by. This defense station had some guns that shot metal pieces very fast and a few places that could launch missiles. The mining colony and the defense station were there to help the people who lived and worked in the mining colony. On the command deck of the Eternal Dominance, Vexthar saw his tactical officers get ready to shoot. The defense station had found out they were there and was sending out messages. These messages were asking the Eternal Dominance to identify themselves and say what they wanted. The humans really thought this could be a meeting. It would have been funny if it was not so sad that the humans were being so foolish. The humans and their Eternal Dominance encounter was something Vexthar was watching closely. The Eternal Dominance was not there to talk. The captain of the ship, Vexthar, gave the order to target the defense station and the primary hab modules, with all the weapons we have. He said we should fire at them when we are ready to do. All our weapons are going to be used to attack the defense station and the primary hab modules. Vexthar wants us to be prepared and then fire at the defense station and the primary hab modules. The Crithian warships were really letting loose. They had these plasma cannons that were shooting out hot energy. This energy was so hot that it could melt through the hulls of starships easily like a knife going through wax. The Crithian warships also had these missiles that could move in and out of normal space. This meant that the missiles could avoid the shields of the starships and explode inside them. The Crithian warships were also using reality disruptors that could change the way space worked. These disruptors were like hands that could crush a starship like it was nothing. The Crithian warships and their reality disruptors were very powerful. The human defense station was able to shoot 3 railgun rounds before it got completely destroyed. These rounds hit the Crithian shields. Did not cause any damage. The living areas of the space station started to fall and the air inside was leaking out into space, which resulted in the death of thousands of humans in the first attack by the Crithian defense system. The human defense station and the humans died quickly. The humans on the human defense station were killed when the human defense station was destroyed. Something unexpected happened to me. I was just going about my day. Then this thing happened that I did not see coming at all. It was really something that caught me off guard. The thing that was unexpected was a surprise. The Crithians thought the mining facility was a place where people lived and worked, but it changed really fast. Big panels moved out of the way to show the mining facility had guns hidden underneath walls. The machines that were supposed to make air for people to breathe at the mining facility turned around. Showed the Crithians big gun barrels that the Crithians had never seen before at the mining facility. The humans fired back at the humans who were attacking them. The humans were really scared. They fired back because they wanted to protect themselves from the humans. The humans did not want to be hurt by the humans, so they fired back fast as they could. These were not the kind of weapons. Instead, they were streams of projectiles that were accelerated by magnets. Each one was a piece of depleted uranium that was moving really fast, almost as fast as light. These projectiles went across the space between the colony and the Crithian fleet. They were moving fast that the point defense systems could not keep track of them. They were also too dense for the energy shields to stop them. The projectiles went through the Crithian armor with great force, causing a lot of damage to ship after ship. The Crithian fleet was getting hurt badly because of these projectiles. The colony was using these projectiles, which were streams of magnetically accelerated projectiles, to attack the Crithian fleet. Vexthar was completely shocked as he saw 7 of his cruisers break into pieces, their strong hulls smashing like glass. The emergency alarms were screaming over the command deck. There were damage reports coming in from over the fleet. This was just not possible. The people who were fighting against them were not advanced. They should not have had weapons that could hurt the Crithian vessels. Vexthar thought about the Crithian vessels. How they were supposed to be very strong. The Crithian vessels were being. It was a big problem. The captain shouted to his crew. They have to make maneuvers right now. Return fire at the enemy. Do it at maximum intensity. The captain wanted them to shoot back at the enemy with all their might and do not hold back. Evasive maneuvers are very important to avoid getting hit by the enemy fire. Return fire at intensity is the only way to defend the ship. The fight that happened after that was short but really bad. The Crithians used a lot of guns and bombs on the mining place where people lived and worked. They kept shooting until it was all broken and destroyed. The humans did not give up without a struggle. The humans fought back. Hurt the Crithians very badly. When the humans finally stopped fighting, the Crithians had lost a lot of ships. 18 of them were completely destroyed and 34 more were badly damaged. The Crithians also lost a lot of their people. Over 15,000 Crithian warriors were killed in the fight. This was a deal for a species that usually won battles with millions of enemies killed and only a few dozen of their own people hurt. They were used to winning, so this was something new, for them something they did not expect to happen to the species. Kalsina stood at Vexthar's side. Her skin was like crystal. It was changing colors, which meant she was really confused. Supreme Commander, how did they figure it out? How did they make weapons that can get past the defenses of Vexthar and Kalsina? That's just not possible. How did they do that to the defenses of Kalsina and Vexthar? Vexthar did not answer away. He was looking at the data and thinking about the battle. The humans did not just get lucky. Their guns were set up right to take advantage of the weak points in the Crithian shields. They picked out weak spots in the ship designs. The humans fought well, like they knew all about the Crithian ships. They knew how to fight against the Crithian ships. Vexthar was still thinking about what the humans had done. The humans had fought with a lot of skill, like they really understood the ships. Vexthar said this quietly. Somebody had actually told them something. Somebody gave them the specifications of our thing. The technical specifications that belong to us, someone just gave them to the people. Who could do such a thing? The Crithians do not have any enemies that can be so sneaky and mean. There is no species that would dare to do something like this to the Crithians. Then maybe, Vexthar said slowly, we did not think the humans were as smart as they really are. Maybe the humans are actually a lot better at figuring things out than we thought the humans were. Nova Terra is really away from us, and Commander Sarachin was watching what was happening on Horizon's edge. She felt a little happy. It was a sad kind of happy. The mining colony was completely destroyed. 300,000 brave people who stayed behind to run the secret weapon systems are gone too. They did not die for nothing. The Nova Terra mining colony and those people who stayed behind to run the weapon systems on Nova Terra did something important. The Crithians walked into the trap just like we thought they would. The Crithians did what we expected. They fell into the trap. Chin was 43 years old. She was an officer and she had been getting ready for this situation for a long time, about 10 years. Chin was standing in a room under the city of Nova Terra. This room was like a big control center. There were lots of computers and screens around her. Other officers were there too, looking at maps and information. Chin had black hair with some gray in it. Her eyes were dark and serious, like she was thinking about a lot of things. She was in charge, so she had to make decisions. The Colonel James Martinez was sitting next to her. He was looking at the damage reports. They found out that 18 people were killed, for 34 were hurt. This is actually a result than what they thought would happen with the damage assessments that Colonel James Martinez was reviewing. Chin nodded slowly. The people who were attacking us did not think we would fight back. They believed we were weak and did not know how to defend ourselves. Now Chin and the rest of us have shown them that they were wrong about us. We are not weak. We will defend ourselves against Chen's enemies. Do you think Martinez will come back? Martinez asked this question. Chin said that the Crithians will definitely come back. The Crithians will come back because we treated them badly. We killed a lot of the Crithians' warriors. The Crithians' empire does not forgive people who do things to them. The Crithians will come back with all of their power. Are we ready? Chin looked around the command center at the men and women who had given their lives to defend humanity. These people had worked hard to get ready for this moment. They had made weapons and plans to fight the Crithians, who were a lot stronger than humans in many ways. The Crithians had been studied by these men and women for 15 years, ever since the first scouts came back with information and warned everyone about the danger that the Crithians posed. The Crithians were a threat, and the men and women in the command center knew it. They knew they had to be prepared to fight the Crithians. Chin said that the humans are as ready as they are going to be. The Crithians have won every battle they have fought. This is because the Krithians are stronger and faster and have weapons than anyone they have fought. The Krithians have never fought the humans before. The Krithians have never faced the humans as an enemy that will not give up. The humans are an enemy that can change and get better and find ways to win when it seems like they cannot win. The humans are an enemy that adapts and evolves. Finds ways to win even when it seems impossible for the humans to win. The Krithians have never faced an enemy like the humans before. She turned back to the display, where the Krithian fleet was getting back together and getting ready to jump back to their staging areas. The Krithian fleet thinks this is over, that they have given us our punishment and now we will be too scared to do anything. The Krithian fleet is wrong about that. Martinez grinned. So what is our next move now that we have to figure out what to do with the information we have about Martinez and the situation we are in regarding Martinez? Chen's face became really tough. We hurt them badly. Every place they go into, every planet they attack, we make them suffer with a lot of deaths and lost spaceships. We show the enemy that humanity does not give and does not fall apart and does not quit. After a while we make them understand that thinking they are completely safe is just not true. In the command center of the Eternal Dominance, Supreme Commander Vex Thar gave orders. The Eternal Dominance fleet was going back to space. They needed to get stronger. Then the Eternal Dominance fleet would go back to territory. This time they would have power to get rid of the humans for good. The humans were just getting in the way. The Eternal Dominance was not going to put up with them anymore. Supreme Commander Vex Thar and the Eternal Dominance fleet were going to make sure the humans did not exist anymore. The man is going to send 200,000 ships to the attack. He will bring a lot of firepower to break apart planets and make the oceans boil. The humans will find out what happens when a species tries to fight the Krithian Dominion. The Krithian Dominion will show the humans that they should not be challenged by the Krithian Dominion. As Vex Thar looked at the casualty reports, he saw the names of warriors who had been killed by simple human weapons. This made him think. He started to wonder if they would really win in the end. Vex Thar had been a soldier for 200 years. He had never felt this way before. He had always thought that they would win no matter what. Now he was not so sure. Vex Thar thought about the warriors who had died. He felt a little unsure about what would happen next. The Vex Thar who had always been so confident was now feeling some doubt. The humans had surprised him once. Could they do it again? When giants fall, it is a big deal. Giants are huge and powerful. When they fall, everyone notices. The ground. It is very scary. Giants are not like people, they are much bigger and stronger. So when giants fall, it is an event. Giants falling can cause a lot of damage. Hurt a lot of people. People do not like it when giants fall because it is bad news. Giants are supposed to be strong and stand up, not fall down. When giants fall, everything changes. The Krithian Empire had never put together a force big as this one for a single fight. They got together 200,000 warships in the Calthea system where they were getting ready. This made a fleet so big that it covered up the stars. There were warships as big as small moons floating next to fast attack ships and carrier ships that had thousands of little fighter ships inside them. All these ships together were a quarter of the total military strength of the Dominion. This was a big deal because they were using so many resources to fight an enemy that should not have been a big problem for them. The Krithian Empire was really going out against this enemy with the big fleet of warships. Supreme Commander Vex Thar had called for this show of force himself. He was really upset about what happened at Horizon's Edge. Now he wants to destroy humanity. The Council of Hierarchs was not sure if they needed to send many troops. Vex Thar explained it to them in a way that made sense. He said the humans have to be destroyed and everyone has to see it. The Krithian Dominion wants all the other species in the area to know that fighting against the Krithian Dominion is not a bad idea, it is suicidal. The Krithian Dominion has to show that resisting them will not work. Supreme Commander Vex Thar and the Krithian Dominion want to make an example of humanity. Vex Thar was standing in his command chamber. He was going over the battle plan again. The fleet was going to attack all 4 systems at the same time. This would be too much for the humans to handle. They would not be able to defend themselves against many ships and so much firepower. Vex Thar was going to pay attention to Nova Terra. This was the human capital world. Vex Thar would lead the attack on Nova Terra himself. He wanted to make sure that the human leaders were killed and their world was completely destroyed. The human world would be left as a cinder. Vex Thar. The fleet were going to make sure of that. The battle plan for Nova Terra was very important to Vex Thar. War Mistress Kalsina walked up to me with the news. Supreme Commander, I looked at the reports from our reconnaissance drones that went to check out space. The news from the War Mistress Kalsina is really bad. War Mistress Kalsina told me that our drones finished looking at space and what they found is not good. Vex Thar's 3 eyes were staring at her hard. It was like they were trying to see through her. Vexthar's eyes were very sharp and intense. That was a little scary. Vexthar was looking at her with a lot of focus. Vexthar's 3 eyes did not move, they just kept staring at her. The humans have been really busy since we last talked to them. They have put up a lot of weapons platforms in every system where people live of, like the ones they have at Horizon's Edge. What is more worrying is that they seem to have moved all the people who are not necessary to the war effort away from the worlds, on their border. Now the only people who are left on these frontier worlds are the forces of the humans. The humans are only leaving their forces on these frontier worlds. Vexthar thought about this information. The humans were getting ready for a fight, they were putting all their people together. Leaving the places they could not protect. This was an idea for fighting, but it would not make a difference in the end. The humans would not be safe from the 200,000 warships no matter how hard they tried to get ready for the Crithian warships. Vexthar said it does not make a difference. We will do what we plan to do. All systems are going to be cleaned out, know if the military is there or not. If the humans want to die trying to protect worlds that re-empty, then we will let them do that. Vexthar and his people will still sterilize all the systems because that is what they want to do. The humans can try to defend the worlds if they want to, but it will not change what Vexthar and his people are going to do. The order went out to the massive fleet. People on the ships were getting everything ready. They were charging up the weapons. The shield generators were making a lot of noise as they got up to full power. The massive fleet, which was the military force in the whole history of the galaxy, was getting ready to jump into hyperspace. The fleet was really big. It was going to be a huge deal when it jumped into hyperspace. The massive fleet was ready to go. On Nova Terra, Admiral Marcus Rivera was standing in the control room. He was watching the Crithian fleet come closer. Admiral Marcus Rivera had a lot of experience. He had fought in 3 wars between colonies. He had also been in small fights with pirates and people who attack others. Admiral Marcus Rivera had gray hair and brown skin that was rough from being outside a lot. His eyes had seen a lot of things happen. Admiral Marcus Rivera was 61 years old. He had been asked to come to work just for this job after he had partly retired. The civilian government wanted a person who had actually been in combat, not someone who just did desk work when things were calm. They wanted someone like Rivera who had been in a lot of battles. Rivera had spent time in combat than any other officer in the Terran Defense Force. The Terran Defense Force needed someone with this kind of experience. Rivera was the choice because he had so many hours of combat experience. Commander Chin was beside him. Commander Chin had gotten a job and was now his main person for tactics. For the 3 months Commander Chin and he had been working on making sure Nova Terra was safe and talking to the other human systems to get everything ready. They had been doing this together, getting Nova Terra's defenses ready and working with the human systems. Chin said this is happening, which was pretty obvious as he watched the display. Crithian signatures were showing up at the edge of every system all at the same time. The Crithian signatures just kept appearing on the display one after another at the edge of every system. Rivera nodded grimly. There are 200,000 ships. The people in charge of this are being very careful. They do not want to take any risks with the 200,000 ships this time. Can we stop the people who are doing this? Chin asked in a voice. Rivera was quiet for a long time. Normally this would not happen. We have around 4,000 ships that can fight across all of our systems. With the help of our defense systems and surprise attacks, the other side has a lot more ships than we do. 50 of their ships for every one of our Rivera's ships. In a fight we would probably lose in just a few hours. This is not going to be a fight, Chin said. He knows what that means. No, Rivera agreed. We are not going to fight the Crithians the way the Crithians expect. The Crithians have spent 15,000 years perfecting the Crithians' doctrine. The Crithians fight in formations, they use overwhelming firepower and they rely on superior technology to win. The Crithians win through strength and discipline, that is how the Crithians do it. Chin said that we are not able to match them in either category. So that is what we do. We do not give up. We fight like people always have when the other side is stronger. We think of ways to do things, we make do with what we have, and we do not follow the rules they set. Rivera brought up some pictures on the screen that showed us how to fight. Every captain of our ships can make their decisions. They do not have to stay in line or follow a plan. Each captain of the ships can fight the enemy in the way that they think is best. Rivera and the other captains of our ships are going to fight the enemy like this. We are going to make our plans and we are going to fight the enemy our way. This situation is chaos, Chin said. Chin thinks that things are really crazy now. Chin looks at the chaos. It is very disturbing to Chin. To the Crithians, yes. The Crithians have a culture that is all about being organized and following a chain of command. The Crithians will think we should make a line of defense to keep our colonies and buildings safe. Our ships will not do that. Our ships will go to the system and then attack the Crithians from many different places. We will attack the Crithians where they are weak, like their supply lines and the ships that are alone and behind the others. We will attack the Crithians. Then leave before they can send a big group of ships to fight us. Chin said this with a look of understanding. He was talking about guerrilla warfare in space. The idea of guerrilla warfare in space was really starting to make sense to him. That is right. That is just the start. Rivera turned on another screen that showed details about our weapons. Do you remember what happened at Horizon's Edge? Our magnetic accelerators were really good at getting through their shields. We have made that technology better now. Every single one of our platforms and ships and defense systems has the improved version. We are also going to add something else to the magnetic accelerators. Every one of our platforms and every one of our ships and every one of our emplacements will have the new technology and the new thing we are adding. The display was showing some detailed drawings of what looked like simple satellites that people used to talk to each other. Chin looked at these drawings. She was confused. She kept looking at the satellites until she saw some parts that were not easy to see. These were the hidden components of the communication satellites. Chin was still looking at the communication satellites. She was trying to understand what these hidden components did. The woman looked at these things. She said they are bombs. She sounded really surprised when she said that these are bombs. Bombs that really smart, Rivera said. We have put these bombs over our systems and they look like things that regular people use. Like the things that help us navigate or talk to each other or sense what is going on around us. The Crithians will not think these bombs are a threat because they look like the kind of equipment that regular people use. When the Crithians move their ships into the right spot, we will set off all the smart bombs at the same time. Chin wanted to know how much damage satellites can really do to warships. He was not sure if it was a deal or not. Chin asked this question because he did not think satellites were a threat to warships. How damage can satellites do to warships? Chin asked skeptically. Rivera said that on their own these things do not do much. We have put more than 50,000 of them in our 4 systems. Each one of these devices has a nuclear charge that sends all its energy in a straight line. If 50,000 of these devices explode at the time, from many different directions, it will be too much for the Crithian shields to handle. The Crithian shields will not be able to stop 50,000 explosions happening at once. Rivera is talking about the Crithian shields being overwhelmed by these explosions. Chin whistled softly. That is really brilliant. It is insane. The idea is brilliant. Chin thought the plan was brilliant. Rivera said that we are outnumbered and we do not have guns. All we have is insanity, Rivera said. This is a tough situation and brilliant insanity is all that we have to rely on, Rivera said. The Crithian fleet came out of hyperspace at the time, in all 4 human systems. This was a big deal. The Crithian fleet formations were perfect. Every single vessel was where it was supposed to be. The Crithian fleet looked like a wall of warships. This would have scared any enemy so much that they would have given up right away. The Crithian fleet was a powerful force. In the Nova Terra system, Vexthar's flagship is right in the middle of a group of ships. The Eternal Dominance is surrounded by 40,000 ships that are arranged in circles around it. These ships are very powerful. Can cause a lot of damage. The Supreme Commander of the Vexthar's fleet is looking at the area with his 3 eyes, trying to find the human ships that are defending themselves. He wants to know where the defensive fleet is so he can attack them with the Eternal Dominance and the other 40,000 ships. The tactical display was completely empty. There were no ships lined up, no lines to be seen, no big groups of ships fighting back. The only things that showed up were the platforms orbiting around Nova Terra, just sitting there quietly and waiting. Where are the people of Vexthar? Demanded to know. Vexthar wants to know where the people of Vexthar are. The people of Vexthar are nowhere to be found. Vexthar is getting angry. Vexthar demanded to know where they are. Kelsina checked her sensors again and again. She was finding signs of ships over the outer system. There were ships in little groups but no big fleet that was working together. It looked like these ships were trying to get from something. Kelsina saw that the ships were scattered and they seemed to be running. The humans were running. Vexthar felt contempt when he saw this. They had made plans and they had fought very bravely at Horizon's Edge. Now the humans were running away like they were scared. Maybe all the powerful things Vexthar had done was too much for the humans to handle. The humans were. Vexthar thought this was a cowardly thing to do. He told them to go and destroy everything. All the groups that were attacking, he said they should break up and go after the ships. He wanted every one of those ships to be destroyed. His voice sounded mean now. He wanted the humans to be sorry they even tried to fight back. The human ships were what he wanted to get rid of. He really wanted to make sure the human vessels were all gone. The Crithian fleet split up into groups that went hunting. Each of these groups had hundreds of ships that moved to attack the human ships that were all alone. The Crithian fleet did this because it was something they had done times before when they were fighting enemies that were running away. This was what the Crithian fleet always did when they had already beaten the side and just needed to finish things off. The Crithian fleet was following the plan for dealing with a defensive force that was no longer strong. That was exactly what Admiral Rivera had been counting on because Admiral Rivera knew it would happen that way. Admiral Rivera was very sure of this. The moment the Crithian formations broke up, human ships that had been hiding in the debris fields and asteroid clusters throughout the system started moving. These human ships were not running away. They had been waiting quietly in ambush positions using the formation's own tactics against the Crithian formations. Small groups of ships came out from hiding and attacked the Crithian ships that were alone. They shot at them with a lot of firepower. The human ships had guns that could shoot really fast and strong. These guns could break through the ship's shields and armor very easily. The human ships would attack quickly, cause a lot of damage in a very short time. Then they would go back, hide in the outer part of the system before more Crithian ships could get there. The human ships did this to the Crithian hunting packs. This situation was chaos. It was disorder. The Crithian military tradition, which had been around for 15,000 years, was being turned down. You know what, the new way of doing things was working for the Crithian military. Vexthar was getting really mad as he saw more and more of his ships get destroyed. There were dozens of ships that were completely gone. Hundreds were badly damaged. The humans were like a bug that you cannot get rid of. They would attack Vexthar's ships from directions and then run away before Vexthar's forces could do anything about it. When Vexthar's hunting groups arrived at the places where the fights were happening, all they would find was junk from the destroyed ships, and the human ships would be running away in all directions. Vexthar's forces could not catch the humans because the humans were too fast. The humans were hitting Vexthar's ships, then getting away. This was making Vexthar very angry. The leader said, "We need to get together. We have to make our battle formation strong again. We will move forward to the enemy planet with all of our people working in a solid group. We are going to advance on their planet with our battle formation in order. The main battle formation is what we need to focus on. We will advance on their planet with the battle formation." The Crithian ships needed to regroup. This took a lot of time. The Crithian ships had gone over the system when they were chasing, and now they had to be brought back together. This was not easy. The people in charge had to work very carefully to make sure everything was done correctly. The Crithian ships were taking a time to get back into their proper groups. Minutes felt like they were turning into hours as the huge fleet of ships slowly came back together. The human strike teams kept attacking during those hours. They went after the command ships of the Crithian ranks. They also destroyed the supply vessels. This caused a lot of confusion among the Crithian ranks. The humans were doing a lot of attacks, and this was very effective. For the time in his long career as a warrior, Vexthar felt something new on the battlefield. The human strike teams were doing damage to the Crithian ranks. Vexthar did not like this. The humans were making it hard for the Crithian ranks to fight back. Uncertainty. The Crithian fleet is finally back in its battle formation after 6 long hours of being bothered constantly. The Crithian fleet, led by Vexthar, lost than 800 ships to these surprise attacks, which is a small part of the Crithian fleet, but the Crithian fleet lost a lot more ships than Vexthar thought it would lose in the whole fight. The rest of the fleet's ships got into their assigned spots, put up their shields all the way, and got their weapons ready for the Crithian fleet. "We need to move on the main planet," Vexthar ordered. "We have to stay as a team. Do not worry about the enemy that is spread out over the place. If we destroy their planet, then this whole thing is over. We are talking about the world of the enemy, and Vexthar wants us to focus on that. Destroying the world will bring an end to this." The big fleet of spaceships started moving towards Nova Terra. This was a powerful force that nobody could stop. The platforms that orbited around Nova Terra began to shoot at the fleet. They used guns that could fire solid objects really fast towards the approaching fleet of spaceships. The Crithians had learned a lesson from what happened at Horizon's Edge, so they changed the way their shields worked. Now the human guns did not work well as they used to. The human guns could still hurt the Crithians. Not as much as they did before. The Crithians and their fleet were still taking damage from the weapons, but the damage was not as bad as it was before. The Crithians were going to win. They would take the fire from Nova Terra, and then they would overwhelm the platforms because they had so many people. After that, the Crithians would destroy Nova Terra completely. This was what the Crithians always did. They were doing it exactly right with Nova Terra. The Crithians were very good at this. They would just keep coming at Nova Terra until they won. Then Admiral Rivera turned on the hidden bombs. 50,000 disguised satellites blew up at the time all over the system. These satellites had been put in place carefully along the paths that the Crithian spaceships were likely to take. When they blew up, each satellite sent out a nuclear blast right into the areas where the most enemy ships were gathered. The blasts were controlled to release an amount of energy into very narrow beams that went straight through the shields of the enemy ships, which were already weakened from fighting all the time. The Crythian ships were getting hit hard because the satellites were releasing much energy at them. The thing that happened was really bad. Thousands of Crythian vessels were destroyed in an explosion. They just disappeared in a fire. Entire groups of ships were gone. The Crythian vessels that did not get destroyed away were still in big trouble. They were hurt by the radiation. Could not move. The materials that made up the Crythian vessels were dying because of the radiation. The Crythian vessels were really suffering. Rivera's trap got rid of a lot of warships really fast. It only took 30 seconds. It destroyed over 15,000 Crythian warships. Rivera's trap was very effective against the warships. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, the alarms were screaming loud. The Eternal Dominance was getting hit hard. His shields were not working anymore. Vexthar was holding onto his command platform with all 4 of his arms. His skin was like crystal. It was changing colors really fast. These colors meant that Vexthar was under a lot of stress and he could not believe what was happening to the Eternal Dominance. This is crazy. The Crythian Dominion does not lose battles. The Crythian Dominion is supposed to be the best. They are the ones who always win. The Crythian Dominion is in charge of the galaxy. Nobody can beat the Crythian Dominion. The Crythian Dominion is too strong. They always come out on top. The Crythian Dominion does not get defeated. This is just not possible for the Crythian Dominion. These people were not safe from harm. They were dying. His fleet, the group of ships ever brought together, was being destroyed by a group of simple people who would not fight fairly. The simple people used things that looked like they were for use but were actually weapons. They did not fight in the open, instead they attacked from places. The simple people changed their ways, found new methods to win even when it seemed like they had no chance. His fleet was being torn apart by this species of people. Supreme Commander, we have to get out of here, Kalsina yelled loud over all the noise. Our fleet is in trouble. We have already lost a lot of our ships, than a third of them. If we stay here, the Supreme Commander, our entire fleet will be. That will be the end of us, the fleet and everything we are fighting for. Vexthar wanted to say no. Every part of him wanted to stand up and fight. He wanted to make things right for people by being strong. Vexthar was a military commander. Military commanders like Vexthar have to know when to pull. They have to know when to stop fighting and live to fight another day. Vexthar had to do what military commanders do to stay alive. The man told all the ships to go. He said they should go to hyperspace and then fall back to Caltheus. All the ships, he said again, they have to go to hyperspace and then fall back to Caltheus. His voice sounded really empty to himself. The Crythian vessels that were still okay turned around. Ran away. This was not a planned move, it was very messy. The Crythian vessels did not leave in an organized way like they had done many times before. The Crythian vessels jumped into hyperspace in groups, or even one by one. They really wanted to get away from the human weapons that kept chasing the Crythian vessels through the system that was full of broken pieces of ships and other things. When the last Crythian vessel was gone, the fleet of Vexthar was really small. It used to have 40,000 ships. Now it had only 23,000 ships. A lot of ships were destroyed, over 17,000. They were too broken to move. The Crythian warriors suffered a loss. Nearly 200,000 of the Crythian warriors were dead. The Crythian vessels and the Crythian warriors were badly hurt. The greatest defeat in the Dominion's 15,000-year history. On Nova Terra, people were really happy. They had big parties all over the planet. They danced in the streets, cried because they were so relieved. People were hugging strangers they did not even know. The people of Nova Terra had been in a lot of trouble. Could have been destroyed. Nova Terra had people and fewer guns and were not as strong as the other side in a lot of ways, but Nova Terra still won. Admiral Rivera was standing in the operations center. He was looking at the display. It was clear of enemy contacts now. Commander Chen was standing beside him. She was crying. Tears were running down her face. She was trying to be strong and show composure, but it was not working. Commander Chen was really upset. Admiral Rivera and Commander Chen were together, in the operations center, watching the display. "We did it," she whispered to me. "We truly did it?" Rivera nodded slowly. "For now. This is not over. We hurt the Crythian Empire badly. We might have even damaged their reputation. The Crythian Empire is really big. They can replace the people they lost. The question is whether the Crythian Empire will want to do that." "You are talking to me. I do not understand what you are saying. What do you mean by what you said? Can you please tell me more about what you mean?" Rivera pointed at the display. "We came out on top because the way we fought was different. We did not do things the way the Crithians wanted us to. The Crithians were not ready for the tactics we used, the weapons we had, and the plans we made. These were all new to them. He stopped talking for a moment. You could tell he was thinking deeply about what he was saying. The Crithians have been in charge for a time by making people afraid of them and by having a big reputation. They are thought of as the Empire, the ones who always win. We just showed that they can be defeated. We showed that the Crithians can be hurt, that they can bleed just like we can. The Rivera looked at the display again, thinking about the Crithians and how we beat them. Chin said that changes everything. He finally understood what was going on. That is a deal to Chin. It makes a lot of difference to Chin. Chin is starting to get it. That is right. Every species that the Crithians have taken control of is watching what is happening now. Every potential enemy of the Crithians is paying attention and learning from this. The Crithians are not gods. They are just another big group of people in charge, and groups like that can lose power. The Crithians can fall like any other empire. In a place far away, Supreme Commander Vex Thar was by himself in the dark command room of the Eternal Dominance. The skin of Supreme Commander Vex Thar, which was like crystal, had become almost black. This was the color of being deeply ashamed in the culture of the Crithians. Around Supreme Commander Vex Thar were the remains of his job, his good name, and maybe even the idea that the Crithian civilization was unbeatable. The humans had been about one thing. Being untouchable was something that was not real. Once something that is not real is broken, it can never be made real again. The idea of being untouchable was that an idea, and now it was gone. The humans had shown that being untouchable was not something that could really happen. The Crithian Dominion will get back on their feet after this loss. They will build their fleets again. Change the way they do things. The Crithian Dominion will not forget what happened. The Crithian Dominion will never go into a fight again thinking they will definitely win. The humans showed the Crithian Dominion something that no other species was able to do in a long time. 15,000 years to be exact. The humans taught the Crithian Dominion a lesson. Big companies can fail. Even giants like businesses can fall. And as Vex Thar stared into the darkness, he wondered if this was just the beginning of the end for an empire that had thought itself eternal.